Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Wow, I feel like I was just here, but it's also like been a hot minute. So I am here today to share with you guys my testimony. And I'm really excited to make this video. I've been wanting to make this video for a little while now, and I figured, given that my last video was a short film about loss, this would be a perfect time to kind of put this out there. If you haven't seen my last video that is a short film about loss, I will link it down below. And that was just like the most amazing video slash short film that I had the opportunity to make with one of my best friends, and I hold that video so close to my heart. So if you know anyone who's dealing with loss or going through it, or if you are going through it yourself, then definitely go check that out. I'll have it linked down below. So, if you guys didn't know already, I am a Christian. My grandma is a born-again Christian, but was raised Russian Orthodox, and so my mom was kind of, in the beginning of her life, raised Russian Orthodox. Sorry y'all, I had to fix my hair, it's gonna really bother me. So growing up, I was always told to pray, and I went to church, and not super consistently to church, but I grew up going to a Christian school, and kind of just surrounded by God my entire childhood. I watched VeggieTales, I watched all those like Christian shows and like movies and all that. And that's what I was taught at home by my family, and that's what I was also taught in school. When I was like 7 or 8, I got baptized. I forget when, but I was baptized, and my mom wanted me to wait until I was like at an age where I really knew what a baptism meant and like what this meant for me and my faith. And so I kind of, like at that age, I felt like I really understood that I was giving my life to Jesus Christ, and I did that, and I've been baptized. So like as time went on, when I was 9 years old, my parents actually split up and got divorced, and during that time, I think like I kind of stepped back from God a little bit, and their divorce didn't affect me as much as it affects most people, just because my parents were so mature about it and were like so kind and loving towards each other throughout the entire process, and literally ended up like getting along better when they were apart versus when they were together. So I was really fortunate in that situation. But I think during that time I kind of was I matured a lot in that process. There were some other issues with my dad's health and all of that at the time, where I just kind of had to grow up a little bit faster than most. And once you're old enough to really like have to make decisions on your own and have like your like thoughts of your own, because you know, like you're raised with your parents saying like do this, or this is what is right and this is what is not right. And so when you're old enough to have thoughts of your own, that's when I really started questioning my faith. And I was like, is God really real? Like, you know, there's so many other religions, and I don't believe that those are right, but what if mine's not right and I'm like being brainwashed? I would have these thoughts, and I'd tell my grandma, I'm like, Granny, I don't believe what the Bible says, and like I don't really know if I believe in God. I think I believe in God, but you know, none of us will ever know until we meet him, like if we do. And so I kind of like went through this back and forth process for years of like, I think God's real, but I don't know, I'm just gonna pray anyway. And I kind of went through this like thought process of like, I'd rather believe in him and get to the end of my life and he's not there, versus go through my life not believing and live kind of a miserable life and then get to the end and he really was there the whole time. And so that's kind of just where my faith stood. So I still prayed. I went to church when people were like, let's go to church, and we stopped going. I was living in Orlando, Florida during this time, and the church that we went to kind of got a little iffy for a little bit, and so we stopped going. And then by the time I was like, I don't know, let's say like 13, I was going through a lot with my dad. My dad was getting really sick during that time, and I kind of was just like, you know, God will take care of it. God will provide it. Like, God, if you're there, I know you'll take care of it. And I remember when I was 14, it was May 2016, and I was really worried about my dad, and this was actually the day that he passed away. Or this was the day that I found out he passed away, and I remember I was like walking around the house like waiting for this phone call back to see if my dad was going to be okay or not, because I was in Spain during the time. I remember I was looking at my mom, and my mom said, like, you know, this could be really bad, but we're gonna be a team and we're gonna stick together no matter what. And I remember looking at her and I was like, no, like, if there's a God, he's not gonna take Dad from us. Like, he won't do that. Like, we're good people. We don't deserve that. And I really, really believed that my dad was gonna survive, because if there was a God, he wouldn't let that happen to my family. And when I got the call back that my dad didn't make it, I was like, that can't be. And I remember for the longest time, I was like, God's not real. And in the back of my head, I knew he was. My video that I made about my dad, that I filmed a week after he passed away, which is actually on my channel, in there I say, like, you know, if it wasn't for God, I don't know where I would be. And, like, if it wasn't for God, I don't know how I'd be getting through this. And, like, that's just kind of something I told myself for a little bit, but I didn't really, like, mean it at the time. And then I remember after posting that video, that's when I started getting really angry. Like I was trying to tell myself in the beginning, like, God has a reason, and then I was like, wait, there is no God, like, what's the point of all of this? And I remember I had a really, really dark moment after my dad passed away. It was about 3 weeks after, and my mom had this trip planned to go to South Africa, because she does, like, event planning and has to travel for work and stuff, and she was looking forward to this trip for months. And I remember she was like, I'm not gonna go. And I'm like, Mom, like, you have to go. Both my brother and I are like, Mom, you have to go. She's like, I'm not leaving you guys. Like, every mom probably would be like, I'm not leaving my 2 babies right now when they need me most. But my brother and I were like, you have been looking forward to this trip for so long. And while she was gone, a lot of things happened. And I'm not gonna really get into that here because they're super personal and they involve family and stuff like that. But a lot of unkind things were said to me during that time, and I didn't have my mom there to protect me. Not that she really could, but, you know, like, it was just like my grandparents there. And I remember I talked to a few of my a few family members, and some of the things they said were things that they shouldn't have said, and some have apologized for it and some haven't. Still to this day, I'm not. And because of the things that were said, I truly believed that if it wasn't for me, my dad would still be here. So I really spent so much time trying everything to save him, and that's what other family members didn't see because they weren't there. And I remember I went up on the roof, and because I was in Spain, and in Spain the roofs are flat, so you can, like, go sit up on them. And I'm sitting on the roof at my grandparents' house, and I'm just like, I'm looking out at the clouds and everything, and I was like, I truly thought, like, if I wasn't here, everyone would be better off. And in that moment, I was like, God, if you're there and if you can hear me, you need to freaking make that known right now, because, like, I'm giving everything to you because I can't do this on my own. And I can't handle this on my own anymore. And if you are there, please just show me or tell me or give me some feeling or something. I remember I was on my knees bawling my eyes out, because in my head that was like my last resort, because I just kind of reached the end of my rope. In that moment, there was this, like, overwhelming amount of peace. I'm gonna get, like, teary-eyed now, but there is, like, this overwhelming amount of peace that I got, and, like, oh, I've never cried saying this before, but just, like, knowing that I wasn't alone, and, like, sitting there and feeling so low, and then all of a sudden feeling this peace, and I felt like this weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, and I just, like, knew in that moment, I was like, okay, it's gonna be okay, like, God's got me, and God's got my dad, and I don't have to take care of my dad, and I don't have to worry about him anymore, because literally the best person, or I don't even know if you would call God a person, but the best, let's say, person possible is taking care of him, and it's my job now to take care of my family. And that, for me, was, like, a big turning point. It was a big moment for me, and that was, like, my come to God moment. And, you know, my faith wasn't perfect after that, but that was the moment where I just knew in my heart that God was real and God was going to carry me through all of this. I went from, like, getting up from the table when my family would pray and like kind of blocking my ears because I didn't want to hear it, to praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. And then I thought my faith was strong then. And then we ended up moving to California, and when we moved here, I met this girl, and she was basically saying, oh, come to my church, I go to this youth group, I think you'd really like it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll go because I want to make more friends, but I don't need to go for the God thing because I already have a relationship with God and whatever. And so, and I hadn't had the best experiences at church prior to that. And I remember going to this church, and the first day I walked in there, I met my friend Lizzie and I met my friend Savannah, who are literally like some of my closest friends now. Everything that happened after my dad passed away was God 100%. Like, everything happened the way that it was meant to happen. And like the neighborhood that we live in, we live in the house right across the street from my dad's and my mom's like best friends from when they were younger that we still keep in touch with now. And we live in a pretty popular area, and it's hard to find a house here. And right after my dad passed, like the house across the street just like opened up, and we're like, okay, we're moving there. But like just the things that had happened, and that's a little tangent. But anyway, so I go to this church, and I went to that church all the way up until last year, and there's actually 2 churches I go to. And there's one I went to for youth group and one I went to for Sunday services. And so now I'm only going to the one that I go to for Sunday services. But the other one, I still go from time to time for like the college group and stuff like that. Even though I'm still a senior in high school, all my friends are a year older than me, so that's why I go. But that like grew my faith so much. Grew so much closer to God. I was like, there's no way I could be closer. And then I start struggling with all these other things like anxiety and some certain like health issues, and then like friendship problems and everything that high school kind of throws your way, and that just like more loss with family members and stress with school and stress with all of these things. And the first person I reach for is God when all of this stuff happens, and that's only a recent thing too. So hard for me to hear when people are going through really difficult times and don't have any beliefs in anything, because for me, I don't know if I'd be sitting here like being able to talk about this if it wasn't for God. And I just think like it's amazing how God can take what was meant for evil and turn it into something so positive and so good and so beautiful. I would do anything to have my dad back. If I'm like we all know, I would do anything to have him back, but I'm trying to pull as much positive and as much beauty from the situation as I can. And if we're really looking into it, if I didn't lose my dad, I know for a fact I would not have this relationship that I do now with God. And I know that my dad literally, like, I don't know if he can see me, I think he can, but like, I just know he'd be so happy that that's what came from all of this. Because, you know, like when you go through these life-changing events, you can either go this way or you can go this way. We live in this world where there's so much evil and so much temptation, and there's so many things that we can turn to. And, you know, like you could go take drugs, or you can go drink a lot of alcohol and kind of wash your problems away. But because of specific situations in my life, that is just something I never turned to, and I didn't have anything else to turn to but God. And also, when I went through all of this, most of my friends kind of just left me during it, and that's awkward if they watch my videos, but like, you know, when you go through these things, people either pull you closer or they push you away, and a good like 3 people pulled me closer, but most of people I knew kind of pushed me away because they were like, oh, she's so fragile, or they couldn't handle for a few seconds what my everyday life had become. And so I think that in a way almost benefited me, because like besides my immediate family, I really didn't have anyone, and so I didn't really have a choice but to reach out to God. And the reason why I wanted to make this video, there's a few reasons why I want to make it. Number one being just to share my story, so that any of you guys who are going through something where you kind of don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, like, know that there's a God who loves you and that cares for you and literally loves you more than like anyone on this earth could even fathom. And for those of you who are kind of questioning God and need more come to Jesus moments, stories, I guess you could say, to kind of just solidify that it's really real. It really is real. And I've always been one of those people that's like, I don't really know about that. And this is just like, it's really difficult to explain. And I've had people say, you know, how do I know God's real? I don't have physical proof. I can't touch or feel him or anything. And like, when you think about your parents or your friends or your grandparents or whoever that is in your life for you, when you know that they love you, but you can't touch or feel that love that they have for you, the only reason you know why they love you is because you've experienced it. And that's the best way I can explain what having a relationship with God is like, because it's not something I could explain to you or even a pastor could explain to you. It's something you have to experience for yourself in your heart. I also wanted to make this video just for you guys to kind of like, I don't know, just kind of put everything about my life out here in the open. And I'm a pretty open person. There's some things I kind of keep to myself, but overall I just feel like there's so many secrets in this world, and we shouldn't be hiding so much about ourselves, because we don't go through these things for no reason. There's a reason why we go through these things, and the reason is because we can help people. And if you believe in God like I do, I believe that these are things to bring all the glory to God, because it's just like insane what he's done in my life, and literally the peace and the love that I feel because of him and the strength that I feel because of him. I pray for that for every single person I know, and all of you watching this. I would do anything for each and every single one of you to feel what I have the privilege of feeling, because I've handed my life over to God. So there's such a difference in like going to church versus actually having a relationship with God. Like, I don't go to church all the time, and when I do, I feel like, oh yes, praise the Lord, I love being here. But going to church doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't, and it helps contribute to your faith. But and I think it's also really difficult to find the right church as well, because some can be really judgmental, some can be super traditional, and you know, that works for some people, no judgment at all. But if you're starting out as a new believer, it's really difficult to kind of figure out what church is right for you. I've been to a lot of churches, and I finally found one that just feels so right. But what was I saying? I had a point to this. I get so excited. Being a Christian is not an easy thing, especially in today's world. But I just feel like I want to share more of that side of my life, because it's such a big part of my life, and it's such a big part of my relationships and friendships and pretty much everything. Like, I've kind of just put everything on the foundation of God, and I'm like, it's all yours. I'm here doing whatever you want. Like, show me what work you have for me. That is my story. That is my testimony. That is why I believe in Main Man JC up there. And yeah, the lighting's gonna be a little bit different for a second, because I also wanted to add in, and I've found a fun way to read the Bible, okay? And I know reading the Bible can be very challenging for people and very boring. Trust me, I've been there. And I actually found a really enjoyable, fun way where you actually are learning a lot about the Bible, and it's so helpful. So if you guys would like to see a video on how I read the Bible and devotionals and all of that stuff, comment that down below, because it is something I'm so passionate about and I love, and I literally send devotionals to people all the time, to my friends all the time. And they love them too. That was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helped you or gave you some knowledge, or you got to know me a little bit better. My DMs are always open for any of you guys who ever need to talk about anything. And yeah, I'm gonna try to make some more upbeat videos now. I feel like my last video is really heavy duty, and this one's kind of more on the serious side. So I'll try to get back into more lighthearted stuff, but also keep it real with you guys, because that's just what I want to do. I love you guys so much, as always. Thank you all for continuing to watch my videos and support me through all of these ups and downs of like posting and not posting and whatever. I'm pretty active on my Instagram though, so I will link that down below and put it right here on the screen so you guys can go follow me there. Anyway, I love you all so much. Thank you for watching. God bless y'all, and I will see all of you beautiful people in my next video. I love you guys, and got a blast.